The sun was rising over the peaceful colony world of Siron 4. The air was cool, the sky pale blue, and the grass shimmered with tiny drops of morning dew. Children laughed as they ran across the school courtyard, their feet tapping lightly against the stone floor. One of them, a small human girl with brown curls and a sky-blue ribbon in her hair, stood near the flower garden, smiling at a butterfly. Her name was Lyra. She was 7 years old. The only human child in a school filled with many alien species. She never minded. Everyone liked her. She was curious, kind, and always shared her lunch. Lyra, look. Her friend Tello, a young insectoid alien, pointed at a shiny beetle on the fence. It's beautiful, she said with wonder in her voice. Let's not touch it. Maybe it's looking for its family. Tello nodded. Lyra's words always made people feel calm. Inside the school building, teachers prepared their lessons. Some were human, some were not. Siron 4 was a peace colony, a place where species from different worlds could live and learn together. It had no military, no weapons, just homes, schools, and gardens. But far above, hidden behind a nearby moon, something deadly moved in silence. Small ship, black and triangular, drifted toward the colony. Inside, 3 alien figures in dark armor watched the screens. Target confirmed, said one of them, voice deep and cold. It's just a school, another replied, uncertain. They're children. They are humans, the leader growled. Even their children are dangerous. Plant the device. Back on the ground, Lyra stood with her teacher, Ms. Roven, drawing stars on her tablet. She looked up at the sky suddenly. What's wrong, Lyra? The teacher asked gently. I don't know, Lyra said. It feels cold. Like the sky is sad, the teacher frowned. Maybe it's just the wind. But the wind had stopped. At 9:37 local time, the school's cafeteria exploded. A bright flash tore through the lower level. Fire, heat, and dust rushed into the courtyard. Children screamed. Glass shattered. Smoke filled the air. Ms. Roven grabbed Lyra, pulling her close. Run, Lyra, go. I'm scared, go. Lyra turned to run. A second explosion struck. The hallway behind her. Her ribbon flew into the air. When the emergency teams arrived an hour later, they found only silence. The school was broken. Dozens were injured. 4 were dead. 1 was Lyra. Her body was found beside the garden. Her ribbon had landed in the grass nearby. Still clean and blue. News of the bombing spread quickly across the galaxy. On Earth, the Terran Council held an emergency session. Screens showed pictures of the destroyed school. Then, the face of the child appeared. Lyra smiling, waving, wearing her ribbon. The room fell silent. Marshal Kane sat alone in a dark office. He watched the news with cold, unmoving eyes. He was Lyra's father. Once a famous war hero, now retired. After the war, he had promised never to pick up a weapon again, but when he saw the report, something broke. He stood up slowly and walked to a metal box in the corner of the room. He opened it. Inside was his old uniform and a picture of his daughter. They killed my child, he whispered. Now they'll learn what that means. The group that planted the bomb was called the Varnux Flame, a radical alien cult that hated Deathworlder's humans. Specifically, they believed humanity was a threat to the galaxy. But no one had ever imagined they would attack a child. The Terran Council released a statement. We demand justice for the innocent. If the galaxy will not act, Earth will. Many alien leaders gave speeches of peace. Some called it a tragic accident. Some even blamed Earth, saying humans brought danger wherever they went. But no one could deny what had happened. And Earth wasn't going to wait. Kane entered the hangar, fully armored, face like stone. Behind him stood 5 elite soldiers of the Terran Blackguard. Each one had served in the hardest battles of the last war. All had lost people they loved. We move now, Kane said. We find them, every last one. We don't stop. No politics. No mercy. One soldier asked, "Sir, are we authorized?" Kane looked at him. They killed a child. The ship lifted off in silence. The blackguard followed leads across 3 systems. Every time they arrived, they found silence. The Varnak were hiding well. But Kane was patient. Pain had sharpened him. On a mining moon in the Azar belt, they caught their first target. A Varnak messenger tried to escape in a stolen shuttle. Kane fired 1 shot. The man fell. He walked over and grabbed the wounded alien by the collar. "Who gave the order?" Kane asked. "I don't know, I swear." Kane didn't blink. "I'm not here to play." The alien shook with fear. "It wasn't just us. We were funded, paid by someone higher up." "Who?" the alien gasped. "The Drexer Combine. They wanted to break the peace between Earth and the colonies. They thought killing a child would push war." Kane's grip tightened. They were right. The Drexer Combine was a wealthy empire. They traded in ships, weapons, and silence. When Earth contacted them, they denied everything. "We have no connection to that group," said the Drexer diplomat. "Surely Earth isn't accusing a sovereign power?" "We're not accusing," the Terran Council replied. "We're coming." Kane and his team landed on a Drexer border world. No warnings, no calls. Just action. They stormed the buildings, found the files, pulled names from hidden servers. One name kept appearing: General Vusdren, the Combine's shadow commander. He had ordered the funding. He knew it would target civilians. He didn't care until Earth came knocking. General Vus was found hiding in a fortress built into an asteroid. Kane led the strike himself. Explosions echoed through the rock. Guards fell quickly. Kane kicked open a steel door and stepped inside. The general stood behind a table. He raised his hands. "Wait, I can explain." Kane tossed something on the floor. The blue ribbon. Vos froze. "I know who you are," Kane said. "I know what you did." "I didn't plant the bomb." "No," Kane replied. "You just gave the monsters the match." "I was following orders," Vos shouted. "It wasn't personal." "It was to her," Kane whispered. The shot was quick, clean, final. Later, in front of the galaxy, Earth released the files. Proof of Drexer involvement. Proof that the Varnak were helped. Alien leaders began to panic. Some blamed Drexer. Some tried to excuse it. But the people, every species, saw the image of the ribbon, the child's smile. The school in ruins. 1. Drexer Colony sent a message to Earth. "We are not with our leaders. We stand with the girl." A week later, on Siran 4, the school was rebuilt. In the courtyard, where the garden once stood, a statue was placed. It showed a young girl with curly hair and a ribbon, reaching out to the stars. On the base, 4 words were written in every known language: "Touch no child of Earth." Kane stood alone before it, dressed in civilian clothes again. A teacher walked up beside him. "She's remembered by all of us. Not just as a victim, but as a voice of peace." "She deserved more," Kane said. "She changed the galaxy." The teacher replied. He nodded slowly, and for the first time in many days, the marshal closed his eyes and felt the wind again. Darkness covered the great chambers of the Terran Council as the news spread across Earth like fire in dry grass. Cities, farms, oceans everywhere, the same image played on screens. A little girl with brown curls and a blue ribbon, smiling at the camera. Then came the next image. Smoke, flames, screaming children. The school on Siran 4 in ruins. It wasn't just news. It was a wound. And Earth was bleeding. In the main hall of the council tower, high above the capital city of New Berlin, leaders from all human nations stood together. The president of the Unified Earth Republic, Chancellor Rowan, faced the large screen with heavy eyes. His voice was calm but hard. "We offered peace," he said. "We sent our children to build bridges, and they murdered one of them." No one spoke. The Varna cult planted the bomb, he continued, but we now know the Drexer Combine funded them. They gave the killers money, support, protection. A senator stood. Do we have absolute proof? We do, Rowan said. Marshal Kane brought it himself. All eyes turned to the back of the room. Marshal Kane stepped forward, slow and silent. His face was pale, and his eyes held no light. He carried a small box in his hand. He opened it and held up a blue ribbon. This belonged to my daughter. Everyone froze. She was 7 years old. Her name was Lyra. She played with aliens. She planted flowers. She believed in peace. Kane's voice trembled, but only for a second. They killed her with a bomb meant for war, in a school. On a peace colony. One of the diplomats from the Centauri League stood nervously. Marshal, we all feel sorrow for your loss, but sorrow. Kane interrupted. We don't want sorrow, we want justice. There was silence again. Then Rowan spoke. We call for a vote. No more speeches, no more delays. One question. Should Earth activate Protocol Vengeance? Each delegate stepped forward and pressed their hand on a glowing pad. Green lights filled the room. Unanimous to far across the galaxy. Act. The Drexer capital world of Madras. The ruling council received Earth's message. It was short. We know what you did. We're coming. Panic swept through the palace. Drexer leaders screamed at one another in their native language, clicking and hissing in fear. They wouldn't dare. One of them shouted, "They just voted." Another snapped back. And it was unanimous. The humans are serious. An ambassador from the Velig Union was present. He shook his head slowly. You touched their young. You don't understand humans. When their enemies strike them, they endure. But when someone kills their child, they turn into something else. You make them sound like monsters, a Drexer noble said. The ambassador leaned forward. No, not monsters, just human. Back on Earth, ships began to move. Massive gates opened above Luna base. Hundreds of dark warships emerged from hidden hangars deep in the moon's surface. These were not standard military vessels. These belonged to Earth's Black Fleet, silent, invisible, and built for one thing only, revenge. At the head of the fleet flew a ship called the Justicar. Sleek, black, and armored with neutron-forged steel. It carried Marshal Kane and his chosen team. He stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. Target? The captain asked. Drexer Combine Forward Outpost. Kosar 13, Kane said coldly. We take it. We send a message. Meanwhile, across neutral systems, everyone was watching. Alien species who once feared Earth now sat glued to their screens. Some worried Earth would overreact. Others believed the Drexer deserved whatever came. In a quiet corner of the galaxy. On a pirate world called Vassal, smugglers shared rumors over cheap drinks. They say Kane is leading the attack himself, one whispered. No way. He's retired. Not anymore. You didn't see the video? He brought his daughter's ribbon into the council. A silence fell over the table. He's not fighting for Earth, the smuggler said. He's fighting for her. The assault on Exer 13 began at dawn. The station was large, well defended. It had planetary shields, defense cannons, and fighter patrols. None of it mattered. The Black Fleet didn't arrive with noise. It came like a shadow. The station's commander, Captain Elvos, sipped his morning drink when the alarm screamed. Incoming? He asked, confused. No ships on radar. Wait. They're already inside the defense ring. How? Unknown vessels are bypassing our shields. Within minutes, half the station's defenses were gone. Drones swarmed power systems. EMP blasts knocked out control towers. On the outer deck, Kane and his team landed through a breach. Drexer guards tried to fight. They didn't last long. Kane moved like a ghost, silent, fast, efficient. His eyes didn't blink. He wasn't hunting soldiers. He was hunting something deeper. They reached the main command room. Captain Elvos held his hands up. "We didn't plan the bombing," he shouted. "We only followed orders." "Then you won't mind answering questions," Kane said. The broadcast of the station's surrender spread across the galaxy. The video showed Captain Elvos in cuffs, being escorted off the deck. Kane's face was expressionless. Behind him, a banner unfurled, a child's drawing, a sun, a tree, a girl with a blue ribbon. Even alien hearts shivered. 3 days later, Earth sent the proof to the Galactic Alliance. Financial logs, messages, ship transfers, all leading back to the Drexer. Combine's inner circle. The Alliance held an emergency meeting. Some members called for peace. Others said nothing could be done. But the people, the civilians, the farmers, the teachers, they watched. The ribbon. They saw the drawing. And they understood. A protest began on the Drexer colony of Yiska Prime. Thousands marched with fake blue ribbons tied to their clothes. "Justice for Lyra," they chanted. Drexer security forces tried to stop it. They failed. In the Terran War room, Chancellor Riewin sat with his generals. "What's our next move?" One asked. "We have the station," another said. "But Drexer has more bases." Rowan looked at Kane. The Marshal spoke with steel in his voice. "We give them one chance," he said. "One message. One offer. Turn in the leaders who funded the bombing, or we come for the whole chain." "And if they refuse?" Rowan asked. Kane didn't hesitate. "Then the chain breaks." The message was sent through all major systems. Drexer had 48 hours to respond. Instead, they went quiet. But Earth wasn't waiting. In orbit above Exer 13. Kane stood outside his ship, helmet off, looking down at the planet below. "Do you think they'll surrender?" the captain asked. "No," Kane replied. "But that's not why we came." "Then why?" "To remind them." "Of what?" Kane turned to him. "That Earth doesn't forget." At the 48th hour, the Drexer finally answered. A small ship arrived at the edge of the Black Fleet. It carried no weapons. Only one passenger. Ambassador Vilene, a young Drexer diplomat, stood trembling before the Marshal. "I come with information," he said. "Names, locations, the ones who ordered the funding. Not all of us supported it. Some of us have children too." Kane looked at him carefully, then nodded. "Speak." "The files." Ambassador Velen delivered confirmed everything. General Vestren, Minister Kalbaru, Banker Tesh, Zaring. Each of them had approved the money that funded the Varnok cult. Each of them had hoped it would push Earth into war. Instead, united the galaxy against them. Earth sent one final message. "We are coming for them. Only them. Anyone who stands in our way becomes part of the problem." The galaxy watched with breath held. Would the Drexer fight to protect their traitors? Or would they finally understand what they had done? That night, on Earth, a blue light glowed from the council tower. It wasn't a weapon. It was a candle for Lyra and all the innocent lives that should never have been lost. The message was clear. Peace may be Earth's goal, but when you kill a child of Earth, Earth will answer, and the stars will never forget. The world had changed for Marshal Kane. Just days ago, he was a father, quietly tending his garden in a peaceful Earth city. His armor had been locked away, his past forgotten. He had walked away from war, thinking it would never touch his daughter's life, but now she was gone. And the world expected something from him again. Kane stood in a quiet chamber deep under Earth's central command. The walls were dark gray, cold, without decoration. Only a single object lay in the room, a small case with his old uniform. Still spotless, still ready. He opened it slowly. A deep breath escaped him, not sadness, not hesitation, resolution. He took out the black armored coat, feeling its weight. His fingers brushed the old badge, Terran Marshal, Elite Class. Then he reached for the thin, worn blue ribbon and pinned it above the badge. It did not belong to his uniform. It belonged to his daughter. "Sir," A voice came from the doorway. Kane turned. A soldier stood there stiffly, nervous. "The council confirmed your appointment. You're reinstated. You have full operational command under Vengeance Protocol." Kane said nothing. The soldier cleared his throat. "The blackguard are assembling. They're waiting for you." Kane looked back at the case, then closed it. He put on his gloves, slowly, with purpose. "Then we don't keep them waiting." The blackguard waited inside Hangar 7, Earth's most secure military installation. The team was already legendary. Elite human soldiers, trained in deadly environments, survivors of past wars. As Kane stepped into the hangar, the room fell silent. He walked slowly, his black coat swaying slightly, his steps firm. No orders. "Number. Greetings." He didn't need to speak yet. He stopped in front of the group. A soldier named Dren broke the silence. "We heard what happened, sir. We're sorry." Kane's face showed nothing. "We're not here for sorrow," he said. "We're here for justice." He looked around the room. "You know what was taken from me. But this mission is not just about my daughter. It's about every child who thinks they're safe. Every innocent who trusts peace will protect them." Kane's voice stayed low, but every word felt like thunder. "They bombed a school. They hid behind cowards. They made a mistake, and now we make them remember." No one cheered. No one smiled, but every hand reached for a weapon. The blackguard moved quickly. Within hours, they were aboard the Justicar, Earth's most advanced stealth vessel. Its black hull was invisible to most sensors. Its engine could move without sound. And it carried one purpose: to end threats before they could grow. Kane stood on the bridge beside Captain Rhea, a calm woman with steel-gray eyes and a voice like ice. "We're cleared to jump," she said. "First target is the Varnock cult cell in the Rex's cloud." "Proceed," Kane said. The ship shuddered softly, then vanished into the void. The Rex's cloud was a strange place, filled with glowing gas and sharp debris. It was home to smugglers, pirates, and shadow groups like the Varnock's Flame. Kane watched the screen as the ship approached the target. "Are they expecting us?" he asked. "No, they think they're hidden," Rhea replied. "Good." Inside the Varnock base, alarms suddenly screamed. "Unidentified vessel." Someone shouted, It's already here." "They bypassed our perimeter." Panic spread like fire. One of the guards ran to activate the comms. "We surrender. This is a peaceful station." A voice answered, "No, it's not." The power cut out. Then the doors exploded. Kane entered first. His team followed. Swift and silent. The battle was over in minutes. No human was injured. The cultists surrendered. Terrified, Kane grabbed the leader, a tall creature with pale skin and a cybernetic eye. "Who ordered the school bombing?" Kane demanded. The cultist sneered. "You already know. The Drexer gave us credits, safe houses, and the target. They told us the girl's death would hurt Earth the most." "You killed a child," Kane said. "We killed fear," the cultist spat. Kane turned to his team. "Take him. Interrogate the rest. Leave nothing hidden." Back aboard the Justicar, Kane stood over the files pulled from the cult systems. His fingers tapped the screen slowly. "Captain," he said, "this isn't just revenge. This was designed." Rhea looked closer. "Drexer intelligence signatures. Encrypted files from their financial branch. They planned everything. Paid the cult. Gave them target lists. It was political warfare." Kane's eyes narrowed. "They wanted to shake Earth's belief in peace. To make us look weak. They used my daughter for it." Rhea looked at him carefully. "So what now?" Kane's voice dropped to a whisper. "We bring the war to their doorstep." Back on Earth, the Terran Council debated the next move. Some wanted to wait. Others feared escalation. Rowan, the Chancellor, stood alone in his office, watching the stars through a large window. He knew what Kane was becoming. He knew what kind of man grief could create, but deep down, he also knew Kane was right. The enemy had drawn first blood. He turned to his assistant. Send a message to the Marshal. He has my support, and the full weight of Earth behind him. The Drexer Combine didn't believe Earth would go this far, but the Justicar didn't knock on doors. It opened them. They hit a secret Drexer storage vault on the moon of Calros. Found financial files, private messages, video logs. All evidence of the Drexer elite supporting Varnock operations. In one message, a Drexer general laughed. Even if Earth finds out, they won't dare move. They're too proud. Too soft. Kane watched that video 3 times. He said nothing. Just sent it to the Council with one sentence. Permission to proceed. The reply was immediate. Granted. One by one. Drexer outposts began to fall. Not with mass bombing, but with precision strikes. Smart. Fast. Deadly. The Justicar would appear out of nowhere. Kane and the blackguard would strike, gather data, capture leaders, then vanish. The galaxy took notice. Even Earth's old enemies watched with quiet respect. This is not the same Earth. One alien ambassador said during a news interview, "This is the Earth that remembers pain." But the Drexer were not silent forever. They sent a message encrypted. Formal. It came from one of their inner council members, Torval Reen. He asked for a meeting. Kane read the message once, then looked to his team. "We're going." "Could be a trap," Dren warned. Kane nodded. "Then we'll trap them first." The meeting took place on a neutral moon. No weapons. No drones. Only words. Torval Reen was old, clever, and clearly afraid. "This has gone too far, Marshal," he said. "You've made your point." "I'm not trying to make a point," King replied. "I'm making sure no one forgets." Reen tried to smile. "We didn't want war. You funded killers. Only to test your strength." "You tested our heart," Kane said, stepping closer. "And you failed." Reen lowered his head. "What do you want?" "Names," Kane said. "Everyone who approved the bombing. Where they are, what they know. Give them to me, or Earth comes knocking." Reen hesitated, then handed over a chip. "You won't stop, will you?" Kane looked him in the eyes. "You killed my child." The chip gave them everything. Drexer generals, bankers, informants, over 30 names. All of them tied to the plan. Kane returned to Earth for one day. He stood before the council. Rowan greeted him quietly. "You've done more than we imagined," Rowan said. "You've made the galaxy listen." "I didn't do this for the galaxy," Kane replied. "I did it for her." Rowan looked down at the ribbon still pinned to Kane's uniform. "We know," he said. "And now, so does everyone else." Outside the council tower, civilians had gathered in silence. Across the plaza, a large screen showed Lyra's face. People held blue ribbons, some cried. Some stood still. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Later that night, Kane sat alone on a quiet rooftop. The stars above him shone like frozen fire. A voice broke the silence. "You're not done yet, are you?" Rhea stepped forward, holding a report. "No," Kane said. "Not until every last one is found." She handed him the report. "Then we go again tomorrow." Kane took it, but for one moment, he looked up at the stars. "Wait for me, Lyra," he whispered. "I'm not done. Not yet." The stars above Earth were quiet, but deep inside the planet's orbit, something massive was waking. Dozens of hangars opened across the moon's dark side. Deep bunkers lit up across Mars. Space gates that hadn't moved in years started humming, glowing blue and gold. From Earth's surface, civilians could see small flashes in the night sky, like fireflies flickering above the atmosphere. Something was coming. And it wasn't peaceful. Inside Command Station Hallion. "High over Earth, Chancellor." Rowan stood before a large screen. A tactical map glowed red. 30 targets across 3 sectors, all Drexer aligned, flashed with warning markers. "Are we sure about these locations?" Rowan asked. Admiral Leeson nodded. We triple-checked. Each one was involved in supplying credits, weapons, or safe routes for the Varnock cult. Some even helped smuggle the bomb to Siran 4. Rowan's face turned hard. And the civilian presence? Minimal. We've already issued silent warnings to neutral colonies nearby. Most non-combatants are evacuating. He stared at the screen for a long moment. Then give the order, he said. Deploy the response fleet, full force. Yes, Chancellor. And send a message to the Drexer Combine, he added. They have one last chance to hand over. The traitors. The message was short, cold, delivered through official channels and across galactic networks. Earth will no longer wait. Surrender those responsible, or face the consequence of silence. The Drexer did not reply. Not in words. Instead, they raised their shields, ordered their border patrols to full alert, and called back warships from deep space. They thought it would be enough. It wasn't. On the deck of the flagship Justicar, Marshal Kane stood silently as his fleet moved into position. 112 ships, all black-hulled, designed to absorb light and confuse radar. Each one named after moments in human pain, unity, ashes, the oath. Final bell. This was not a war fleet. It was a message. Rhea, his second-in-command, stepped beside him. The fleet is ready. All formations have acknowledged your command. Kane nodded slowly. Show them what Earth becomes when it bleeds. She gave the signal. From orbit, Earth's response fleet launched. They moved in perfect silence. No sirens, no flashing lights. Just dark shapes crossing the stars like shadows of judgment. Every world watching felt it. This was no show of power. This was a funeral procession, headed toward those who had spilled innocent blood. At Drexer Command Base 7, the early warning officer sat frozen. He stared at his screen, hands shaking. Multiple contacts, fast movers, Sector 12. The station commander leaned in. Pirates? No, not pirates. The officer turned, pale as ice. They're Earth. The commander blinked. That's impossible. They weren't supposed to. Before he could finish, the outer defense satellite exploded. A second later, the station's lights dimmed. Earth's fleet had arrived. Aboard the Justicar, Rhea watched the scan results. No shots fired yet. She sighed. They haven't launched a response. They won't, Kane replied. They're still hoping we bluff. Are we? Kane turned to her with hard eyes. No. He stepped to the communication console and opened a channel broadcasting. Across all Drexer frequencies. This is Marshal Kane, speaking for Earth. You know why we are here. We will not harm civilians. We are here for the guilty. If you surrender them, we leave. If you don't, we stay. Silence. Then static. Then a cold Drexer voice. Marshal Kane, you have no right to judge us. Kane's voice remained steady. Then, we won't ask again. The first strike was surgical. Earth's fleet didn't destroy cities or stations. Instead, they disabled Drexer defense grids, severed comms, and took control of power cores. Within 3 minutes, 3 major Drexer military satellites were offline. Within 5, Earth had full orbital control of Base 7. Drexer soldiers panicked. They weren't ready for precision warfare. They expected missiles and chaos. Instead, they saw discipline, a different kind of terror. A team from the Blackguard landed in the main base. Kane led them personally. They passed shocked Drexer soldiers who had already dropped their weapons. He entered the control tower and walked straight to the command chamber. A high-ranking Drexer officer stood trembling, hands raised. You could have bombed us. Why didn't you? We're not like you, Kane said. The officer swallowed. What do you want? The people who ordered the bombing. Vozdren, Kalbaru, Zarin. I don't know where they are. Kane stepped closer. You will. Across the galaxy. News feeds exploded. Earth had taken a Drexer base without a single civilian death. The footage showed soldiers surrendering without a fight. The image that stunned most was the banner now flying over the captured base. A blue ribbon with the words "Justice for Lyra." Even neutral systems began to speak out. The Nuskari Republic, usually quiet, issued a statement. Earth has done what the galaxy was too afraid to do. A Drexer ally from the Gradle Dominion withdrew support. We were told Earth would react with violence. Instead, they reacted with precision. We will not stand against justice. The Drexer Combine was losing more than territory. They were losing the galaxy's trust. In a secure Drexer fortress, Vasdren watched the footage with wide, furious eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen. He shouted. Earth was meant to break, to crumble. Kalbaru, older and calmer, placed a hand on the screen. They didn't crumble. They sharpened. Zarin, the banker, tried to run. I'm leaving this planet. They'll find us. I'm not dying for a mistake. Vas grabbed him by the collar. You already did. But it was too late. Earth's drones had already located them. Marshal. Kane received the location. A high fortress on the Drexer world of Tinver, built into the mountains. Surrounded by energy fields and storm shields. A normal fleet couldn't touch it, but Earth's fleet was not normal. Kane turned to his engineers. Can we break it? They nodded. It'll take time. But once the shield cracks, we go in. How long? 12 hours. Then start. For 12 hours, Earth's fleet surrounded the world. They didn't fire randomly. They didn't destroy cities. They simply waited. Each hour, a message was broadcast. Surrender the guilty. Spare your people. This is your last chance. On the planet below, the Drexer citizens watched nervously. They had been told humans were savage, wild, mindless, but what? The halls of the Drexer Empire's High Council were usually filled with proud voices. Today, they were silent. The great chamber was dim, lit only by cold blue lights from the massive star maps on the walls. The leaders sat in heavy chairs, their faces tight with worry. The news from the front lines was grim. Earth's fleet was advancing faster than anyone had expected. One by one, their bases fell with little resistance. The youngest member of the council, Minister Zalrek, whispered to his neighbor, "How did Earth become so strong? So fast?" His neighbor, an old general named Vakris, growled, "They are not stronger. They are desperate. And desperate men fight like wild beasts." The chamber door opened with a loud creak. The council leader, High Chancellor Rovan, stepped in. "All reports are in," Rovan said, voice steady but cold. "Earth's response fleet controls 5 systems. Our allies are pulling back. Even the Gradle Dominion questions our loyalty." Zalrek stood, trembling slightly. "What do we do? Our enemies expect us to surrender." Rovan's eyes darkened. "We do not surrender." He paced slowly. "But fear grows. It is eating us from inside. The people whisper of Earth's wrath. The soldiers doubt their leaders. And worst of all, the traitors we hide may betray us again." A murmur rose among the council. One elder said, "The blue ribbon, the girl they lost, has become a symbol. A ghost haunting our empire." Zalrek looked at the hologram of the blue ribbon floating above the council table. "We cannot let fear break us," Rovan said. "We must show strength." He paused and then smiled, but it was a smile without warmth. "I have ordered new weapons deployed. We will strike Earth supply lines. Cut off their fuel. We will make them bleed." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Justicar, Kane listened to the reports from the front lines. Enemy fleets are regrouping near the outer rings of Sector 14. Captain Rhea said, "They're preparing a counterattack." Kane's jaw tightened. "They're desperate." A junior officer added, "The Drexer are deploying new weapons energy disruptors. They scramble our sensors and slow our ships." Rhea frowned. "We need to adapt quickly." Kane looked out the viewport into the blackness of space. "They will try to stop us," he said quietly. "But we won't let fear stop us." He turned to the crew. Prepare the blackguard for boarding missions. We take their supply ships. Cut their reinforcements. On a Drexer supply station orbiting the planet Jorath, panic was spreading. Lieutenant Kexel shouted orders at his crew as alarms blared. Earth ships incoming. Shields at 70%. Prepare weapons. But the space around the station was suddenly filled with a strange silence. Suddenly, a blackguard boarding pod dropped from the stars. Kexel's voice cracked. They're here! Before the Drexer could react, the pod slammed into the station's hull and burst open. Kane and his team poured out, weapons raised. The battle was fierce but quick. The blackguard were trained for this silent, deadly. Kane moved through the corridors, focused on one thing. The supply logs. He found a data terminal and hacked it in seconds. We have what we need, Kane said. Let's go. The blackguard retreated to their pods just as Drexer reinforcements arrived. Kane smiled faintly. We hit their supplies. The Empire feels fear. Back on Drexer Prime, High Chancellor Rovan held an emergency broadcast to the citizens. People of Drexer, he said, voice calm but firm. Our empire faces a grave threat. Earth has broken our borders. They have struck at our homes. But we will not fall. The broadcast showed images of Drexer soldiers preparing weapons, ships leaving docks, citizens helping war efforts. Stand strong. Trust your leaders. Fear will not defeat us. But behind the scenes, the council was cracking. Minister Zalrek confronted Rovan after the speech. You speak of strength, but the people whisper of weakness. Rovan's eyes flashed. I am the strength of this empire. The fear you speak of is only in your mind. Zalrek stepped closer. If you cannot lead without fear, then you will lead us to ruin. Rovan's smile returned, colder than before. Then it is time for a new leader. In the shadows of the council halls, secret meetings took place. A group of younger generals, worried about the Empire's future, whispered about removing Rovan. They feared he was reckless, that his pride blinded him. One of them, General Kren, sighed, we must act before Earth destroys us. A woman replied, and if we fail, the Empire falls to chaos. They all knew the risk, but they also knew the alternative was worse. On the Justicar, Kane prepared for the next strike. We have the names, he said to Rhea, the leaders who funded the attack. We will hunt them down, Rhea nodded. And the Empire? They will collapse from fear. Their people won't stand behind traitors. Suddenly, alarms sounded. Incoming Drexer fleet. The junior officer shouted, they're faster than we thought. Kane grinned. Then we give them a lesson they won't forget. The battle that followed was brutal. Earth's fleet fought with precision, but the Drexer had new weapons that scrambled sensors and disrupted communications. Chaos erupted. Kane found himself cut off from his team, alone in enemy space. With fighters closing in, he moved through the shadows of a ruined space station, avoiding detection. He could feel the weight of every second. Then, through static comes, Rhea's voice came. Kane, can you hear me? We're coming for you. Don't risk it, Kane replied. Get the fleet ready, we finish this. He found an old weapons locker and armed himself with an ancient plasma rifle. As the enemy fighters closed in, Kane prepared for a last stand, but suddenly a large Drexer ship appeared, cutting off his escape. The pilot's voice crackled over comms. Marshal Kane, you are alone. Surrender, and this can end. Kane's fingers tightened on the rifle. Not while fear still rules your empire. Just then, Earth's fleet arrived, led by Captain Rhea in the Justicar. They blasted the Drexer ships, forcing them to retreat. Kane was rescued. Back aboard the Justicar, Kane looked at the stars and whispered, fear is their enemy now, and fear is what they will lose. The Empire's leaders met again. Rovan's voice was weary. We cannot win this war with weapons alone. Zalrek stepped forward. Then we fight with something else, Hope. Rovan looked at him sharply. Hope? Yes, hope that our people remember what unites us, not what divides. Rovan considered this. For the first time, he seemed uncertain. As Earth's fleet pressed forward, a new tension gripped the galaxy. The Drexer Empire was afraid, not just of Earth's weapons, but of what Earth's fury meant. And the story of a girl with a blue ribbon was no longer just a memory. It was a warning. The cold silence of space pressed against the hull of the Justicar as it cut through the void toward the war front. Inside the command deck, Marshal Kane stood with his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the screens showing the approaching battle zone. Captain Rhea approached quietly. We're less than an hour from the Drexer stronghold. Kane did not turn. They're waiting. They've been preparing for us. Rhea nodded. Our sensors picked up heavy shield generators and new drone squadrons. Kane's voice was calm but full of steel. Then we show them Earth doesn't back down. The Justicar and its fleet slowed as they entered the outer ring of the Drexer system. A storm of fire and light flashed across the Starfield. Drexer defense turrets activating, fighter wings launching. The battle was about to begin. Captain, status report. Kane ordered. Shields at full, weapons charged. Fighters scrambling to intercept, Rhea answered. But the enemy is coordinated. They know we're coming. Kane clenched his fists. We'll break their line. On the Drexer side, Commander Velen paced nervously in the control room. He was the young diplomat who had once delivered secrets to Kane. Now he watched the defense channels with growing fear. Prepare the front line, he ordered. Do not let them reach the inner sanctum. A soldier turned. Commander, the blackguard have been spotted near the surface. They've deployed pods. Velen swallowed. Hard. We cannot lose that base. The information there is vital. He looked at the screens as missiles streaked toward their shields. Suddenly, the first wave of Earth's fighters burst through the enemy lines. The space around the Drexer base exploded in bursts of light and fire. Kane's voice came over the comms. All units, focus on disabling their shield generators. We need those down before the blackguard lands. The fleet moved as one fast, precise. Explosions tore through Drexer defenses. The shields flickered and faded. Rhea said, shields are down. Blackguard, prepare to deploy. Kane led the blackguard pods through the atmosphere, dropping toward the surface. The ground below was scarred by war-burnt forests, shattered buildings. Smoke rising. They landed in the shadow of a fortress surrounded by tall walls and laser turrets. Kane looked to his team. We move fast. Disable their comms and capture their commanders. Inside the fortress, Drexer soldiers scrambled. Velen watched as alarms blared. Marshal Kane's forces are inside. We have little time. A voice came through the channel. Commander, reinforcements approaching. Velen gritted his teeth. Hold the line. We buy time for the leaders. Kane and the blackguard fought their way through tight corridors and heavy resistance. A soldier shouted, They're falling back to the command center. Kane nodded. Then that's where we go. They breached the command chamber. Inside, Drexer leaders huddled around a holographic table. Stop them. One shouted, but it was too late. Kane entered, weapon raised. You will answer for your crimes, Kane said coldly. The leaders froze. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the fortress. Outside, Drexer reinforcements arrived, launching a surprise attack. On the blackguard's rear, Kane's cum crackled. Marshal, we're pinned down, Rhea's voice cut in. Hang on, Kane. Fleet is moving to support. The Justicar fired missiles and laser beams, breaking the enemy's advance. Kane took a deep breath. We finish this now. The Drexer leaders surrendered. Kane tied their hands. This ends today. Velen, captured and silent, looked at Kane with mixed fear and respect. You've changed the Empire, Kane said quietly. Velen nodded slowly. Maybe for the better. As the battle ended, Kane looked out from the fortress balcony at the Fae. Stars. The war has only just begun, he whispered. Rhea joined him. And Earth will be ready. Kane smiled faintly. For Lyra. A storm was coming, not of wind or rain, but of silence, cold, deadly silence. The Drexer world of Tinver had gone quiet. Not a single transmission left the surface. Not one fighter launched into orbit. The people waited, holding their breath. Because they all knew Earth was coming. On board the Justicar, Marshal Kane stood at the center of the war room. Screens glowed around him, showing terrain scans, heat maps, and enemy movements if there were any left. Captain Rhea stepped closer. No activity from the ground. It's like they've already surrendered. Kane didn't blink. They haven't. They're hiding, waiting. That's worse. She looked at him. Then what's the plan? We end it, he said simply. Far below, inside the Drexer command palace, Chancellor Vzdren paced like a caged animal. His advisors stood at attention, watching him quietly. They're too close, Vos said. They've taken the sky. Soon they'll land. One advisor spoke up. We still have drones underground. We can trap them. Vos shook his head. Kane will not walk into a trap. He'll walk through it. The room fell silent. Someone whispered. Then we surrender. Vos turned sharply. Say that again. The young officer paled. You meant surrender, Vos hissed. Cowards die begging. Not me, not this empire. Back on the Justicar, Kane met with his strike team. This is it, he said. We go down. We finish what we started. Dren, one of the blackguard, asked, How do we know it's not a trap? We don't, Kane replied. That's why we spring it ourselves. They nodded. No fear. No doubt. Kane turned toward Rhea. The fleet holds position. Keep shields up. If we don't come back, you will, she cut him off. We're not losing you, not today. Kane gave a small, quiet smile. Then we finish it. 10. Stealth dropships launched from the fleet. They flew low and fast, skimming across the clouds of Tinver, invisible to radar. Unstoppable to sight, they landed in silence just outside the capital city walls. Kane stepped out first, walking slowly across the cracked Drexer stone. Scan the area, he ordered. A blackguard soldier replied. No drones, no guards, nothing. That's what worries me, Kane muttered. The team moved in formation, crossing the silent city streets. Buildings stood empty. Shops closed. Homes abandoned. Dren whispered. They knew we were coming. They stayed, Kane replied. That means they're planning something. They reached the outer gates of the Drexer Palace. Massive, steel-covered doors stood shut. A symbol of resistance. Kane raised his hand. 2 blackguard soldiers planted. Charges. The doors blew inward with a single deep boom. Inside stood Drexer guards, only 10. They didn't fight. They dropped their weapons. We don't want to die, one said. We were told you'd kill everyone. Kane's eyes narrowed. You were told wrong. They passed through hallways lined with old statues and rich banners. But none of it could hide the rot beneath the Empire's surface. At the central chamber, they found Vzdren waiting. He stood beside a large table, hands resting on its edge. So, he said, the great Marshal Kane arrives, the butcher of Tinver. I didn't come to butcher, Kane said. I came for justice. Vos laughed. Justice? This is revenge. Kane stepped forward. You killed my daughter. You used her death to spark a war. Vos raised a brow. Her death was unfortunate, but effective. That was the final straw. Kane crossed the floor in 3 steps and grabbed Vos by the collar. You think this is a game? That innocent lives are tools. That fear will protect you. Vos didn't flinch. Fear has protected us for generations. Kane dropped him to the ground. Not anymore. Blackguard soldiers arrested Vos and the rest of the High Command. Files were pulled from their servers. showing proof of the bombing orders, payment trails, and bribes to keep it all quiet. Everything Earth needed. Back at the fleet, the files were uploaded to every council in the galaxy. Within hours, the truth was public. The Drexer had ordered the bombing. They had murdered a child. The galaxy reacted with horror. Former allies turned away. The Drexer Empire had fallen not with explosions, but with truth. Later that night, Kane stood alone on the balcony of the conquered palace. He looked out over the city, the wind brushing his coat. Rhea joined him. "We've won." "No," Kane replied. "We ended something, but winning? That's for another time." She stood beside him. "You did what no one thought possible. You brought them to justice." He looked at the sky. "I just kept a promise to my daughter." On Earth, a memorial was held in Lyra's honor, not just for her, but for every life lost in the shadows of Empire. Millions tuned in across the stars. They watched as Marshal Kane placed the small blue ribbon, her ribbon, on the base of a white stone pillar. No words were needed. The galaxy understood. A reckoning had come, and it had a human face. The stars above Tinver were calm, quiet, peaceful, but peace didn't mean the war was over. Not yet. Inside the dark halls of the Drexer capital, Marshal Kane stood in front of a large mirror. He wore no armor, no medals, only a black coat and a tired expression. His reflection looked older than he felt. The door behind him opened. "You ready?" Rhea asked softly. Kane nodded. "As I'll ever be. They're waiting at the High Court. Let's end this right." The Galactic Council had gathered for the first war tribunal in over a century. Representatives from 50 worlds filled the giant glass chamber orbiting Earth. Ships floated around them like metal birds. Screens showed live feeds to billions. Across the galaxy, everyone wanted to see it. The fall of the Drexer Empire. At the center of the room stood the prisoners, Chancellor Vzdren, Kalbaru, Zarin, and other high-ranking Drexer leaders. Their hands were bound. Their faces were hollow. Kane stepped onto the platform. He didn't speak right away. He looked at them, one by one, into their eyes. Then he turned to the galaxy. "You asked for truth," Kane said. "Here it is." He motioned to a projection. A screen showed a video. The bombing of Saran 4, the death of civilians, the loss of his daughter Lyra. The screen changed, showing the Drexer payment logs, military orders, secret plans to provoke Earth. Gasps filled the room. A few council members looked away. "Justice does not begin with violence," Kane said. "But sometimes it must pass through it." He pointed at the prisoners. They did not expect Earth to respond. They thought we were weak. They were wrong. Silence. Then the council speaker stood. "We have heard the evidence. The accused are found guilty of war crimes." The sentence was decided. Life in a deep space exile prison far from any world. Never again would they hold power. After the court adjourned, Kane walked outside into the cold starlight. He stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring into the vast black sky. Rhea joined him again. "It's done," she said. "For now," Kane replied. "You still don't feel peace?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Peace isn't a feeling, it's a choice." Rhea smiled. "So what will Earth choose now?" Kane looked up. "We rebuild, we protect, and we remember." Back on Earth, a new memorial stood in Unity Park, a tall silver statue, simple and strong. At its feet lay a blue ribbon, sealed in glass. The plaque read, "In memory of the innocent, in honor of the lost, in warning to all, never again." People came from every part of Earth. Children laid flowers. Veterans stood in silence. And across the galaxy, systems once divided by greed and pride now reached out to Earth, not in fear, but in respect. The name Lyra was known by all. Not as a victim, but as the spark that awakened a sleeping giant. Somewhere far from Earth, in A remote Drexer colony. A young boy sat with his grandfather. "Grandpa," the boy asked, "is it true what they say? That the humans brought down the Empire?" The old Drexer nodded slowly. "Yes, they did." "Were they monsters?" The old man chuckled. "No, they were just like us. But someone hurt them deeply, and they made a promise." "What kind of promise?" The old Drexer's eyes darkened. "One that shook the stars." Back on the Justicar, Kane sat alone in his private cabin. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of cloth. Lyra's ribbon. He held it for a long time. Then he whispered, "It's over, little one. They can't hurt anyone else." A soft knock came at the door. "Marshal," Rhea called, "we have new orders. The Council wants Earth to help with rebuilding efforts. Diplomatic outreach. A new peace alliance." Kane placed the ribbon gently back into the pocket of his coat. He stood up. "Then let's give them peace." And with that, Earth moved forward, not as conquerors, but as protectors. A new chapter was beginning, but no one would forget what started it. A girl with a blue ribbon, and a promise whispered across the stars: never again.